Welcome to Eye on the Illini. This is Mike Cagley with Brad Sturdy. We're going to talk a little bit about football signing day 2025. Brad, we look at what's going on here, a day that was probably as successful as any Illini recruiting day since Ron Zook. You see these recruiting rankings. What were your thoughts? Because you've been covering recruiting longer than most have.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anybody who's been covering Illinois recruiting as long as me. That means I'm really old. Lauren
Well,
Tate, but I don't know if he covers it anymore.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
but yeah, so this was the best recruiting class I've seen. I think Illinois ever have. This is a class that filled virtually every hole, every need. They have some guys who are impact guys. They have some guys who are more down the road players. A good mix, offense and defense. More athletic than any group they've had. They have size. They brought in junior college kids who are ready to play. I would expect 3 of the 4 junior college kids they brought in to be starters on day one. And the other one will be in the 2 deep. Hey, it's just really impressive. And the flips they got the last couple days were fantastic. So not only were they flipped kids from you're talking flipping kids from Alabama, getting kids who were, had offers for, it was Tennessee, UCLA, Michigan. I mean, just big time gets. It was really impressive to me to see this kind of play out. And of course, we knew all this beforehand, as we're kind of going through this, but at the same time, it's still really impressive to see them have it come to fruition and get it done. The other thing that I thought was interesting is they've done there was always this knock. They weren't recruiting enough. They weren't getting the top players in state. Well, now you look at it and you say they got some of the top players in the state. And now, did they miss on a couple of downstate kids? Yeah, they did. I mean, they missed on, J.C. Anderson. They missed on Max Suter. Really good players. Don't get me wrong. Those are really good players. But Nazir Rankin and Nick Hankins. Nick Hankins, I think, is a day one starter. I think he's got a great chance to play in the NFL. I really think he's that.
Wow.
I think that kid's fantastic. I really do. I think he's going to be elite. I love Tony Balaganai, the kid from Palatine. I like him a lot too. I think he's got the size. He's got that, kind of that wrestling thing. And then they picked up David Grant long before anybody really knew about him. They got him early. And so then they bring, Jacob Alexander, King Liggins, and Casey Thoman are also all top 20, top 30 players in state. And then so they brought in then they went out of state. And then they go out and pull out kids that are, I guess, when I look at this, they go out and get kids who can make an impact early. Kids who are athletic, they go to Florida, they go to Texas even. It's really impressive how they're able to go across the country, find the kids that they need, and bring in literally what, I think is it's the highest rated recruiting class in the history of Illinois football. And when I say that, I realize you say that and you're also like, okay, well, it's Illinois football. So I get that. But at the same time, this is impressive what they were able to do. And I just think, they went to New Jersey and got Kai Pritchard. They went to Vero Beach, Florida, and got Micah Smith, another great player. They went to California and got some JUCO kids. Ohio, all the hot places, and Texas too, a couple Texas kids. So really like what they did. And I'm just really impressed with what Bielema was able to do. He said he had to get more players and better players for his coordinators, for his coaches. And so, he did. He did. And he went out and got them. And the other thing I'll say is, the other thing about this is that I like that they're playing on an even playing field. He mentioned that today, that they are playing on, for the first time since he's been here, getting outbid. Now, that doesn't mean they're not getting outbid by Ohio State. Doesn't mean they're not getting outbid by Sapis, but they can compete with those players. And I think that, it's one of those things. So maybe Ohio State gets the best left tackle and the best quarterback, but maybe Illinois can get the best cornerback. You know what I mean? Get a top cornerback, because Ohio State said, well, I'm going to spend $4 million on my quarterback, $3 million on my left tackle. So, whatever, maybe now I can pull a cornerback for that gets a little bit less. So they're really doing a great job of that. And I think that's really important for the future of Illinois football.
So when you look at, let's say go back to when you started covering Illini sports, what has Bielema done different to create this culture that, I don't know if they, Makovic was here. I guess probably had it during the Makovic era the last time, maybe.
From a recruiting standpoint, I think Ron Zook was a great recruiter. The problem with Zook was, I think with Zook, they got a lot of high-end guys. They got Aurelius Ben, Martez Wilson, Juice Williams. I mean, they got some really good recruits, and we have to, Rashard Mendenhall, stud, right? But where they didn't get was the depth in those classes a lot of times. The guys on the back end. And I think Bielema was able to do that. He's got a lot of guys they used to fill in the end of the class. It'd be like, let's find a guy who's, I don't know, some no star or 2-star or 1-star kid who just has an offer from, I don't know, a Division II. And we'll take him.
Or his dad could be a big booster.
Yeah. We just fill in that spot. Now we're seeing them, they're legit competing with the worst guy in their class probably and look at the offers of the other kids, right? I mean,
exactly.
It's not consistently beating MAC schools, beating Big Ten schools. So what Brett has done, first of all, the first part of it is success. We said this, that, hey, Bruce Weber told us this back in 2005, right? It's going to take a couple years for that recruiting to pay off. It didn't work for him. But the idea was the same. Illinois consistently, a couple years ago, they're, by 3 years, and they finish, 8-5. That team had a chance to win the Big Ten West. Really was a competitive team. Great defense, right? Next year, let's take a little step back, but then last year they burst on 10-3, winning that bowl game. That got everybody on the radar. But what they did at the end, what allowed them to do this was finishing 8-4. And being a team that was ranked in the top 25 during the season, in the college football playoff top 25. And reality is, if they don't lose the Wisconsin game, they finished in the top 20 at 9-3.
Yep.
And so I mean, you could say it's a little bit, but that success, kids want to win. They want to have a chance to play in those big games. They want to play against Ohio State. Or if they can't play for Ohio State, they want to play against Ohio State, right? I mean, that's when you're on TV, you get market and everything. And the other thing is they've got NFL guys. You look around the NFL, there are Illinois guys all over the place. That sells. And so now you put all that together, and it allowed him to do this. And then, as we mentioned before, the resources are good. They have the NIL money with the revenue sharing, plus they've got good NIL money behind that. You add it together, and you're a program that can compete in the now. Do I think they're a team that can compete with Alabama and Ohio State and Georgia and et cetera, et cetera? Probably not. That doesn't mean they can't beat them on a given day, right? But year in and out, they're not going to be at that level. But they can be that next tier, where every once in a while you have a year when it's special. But if you can consistently get to that 8-win mark, you're always going to have a chance to maybe have a year that's special. But you're consistently competing throughout that season, and that's where I think they can be that program that's always in a bowl game, and then has good some years when they're better. I don't know. It's like, and the expectations are different. In basketball, I think Illinois can be a team that can compete at the top, right? Be a top 10 program. I think that's conceivable for Illinois basketball. I think for Illinois football, you want to be in that top 25 all the time. And some years you might be in the top 15. Some years you might not. But, I mean, they're a team that maybe could sneak into a college football playoff with the schedules right, and they get some breaks and things go their way. But I think Bielema, you put all that together. You've got the resources. You've got the winning. You've got the relationships that he's built now over time. And the fact that I think Brett's a good football coach. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
He's a good football coach. So it's in the NFL development. You put all that together, and now you get a top 20 recruiting class, top 21st.
Yeah. No, that's it. Behind the scenes, how is Brad, Josh, how have they been able to try to get this NIL program up and running at a school that's not famous for competing, but yet now seems like the the mandate is we will compete. And oh, by the way, the definition of competing is winning games, not the old Ron Gunther will compete because there's no definition to it.
Yeah, I mean, staying in the back then they told Gunther to stay in the black and don't get caught, right? I mean, that was all they were supposed to do.
And be competitive.
Yeah, whatever that means.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think the one thing that I like that Josh Whitman wants to win. I mean, he started out. I mean, it didn't work out, but he said we will win, right? I mean, that's when it started. We've seen him get rid of his guys, even. Like, I mean, he didn't hire John Gross, but he liked John Gross.
Yeah,
He had to get rid of him. He hired Nancy Faye, had to get rid of him. He hired Levy Smith, had to get rid of him. We've seen him make changes when he had to do it. And I think that gives you a little bit. But I think what they've done is the rev share, the one Illinois has been kind of ahead of the game in a lot of this stuff. They understood it, and Josh Whitman is partly because of Josh Whitman, because he's very intelligent. He's a smart guy, and he understands that he wants to win. And if you want to win, then you're going to have to do things. He understands you have to play the game. You have to do things. You got to find a way to make that work. But I also think like it's the ability to take a Jerry Geese who donated $100 million. Okay, that's whatever. It's 10 million. Is it 10 million a year for 10 years? Some crazy number, $100 million, whatever it is. Okay, so we put that together, and people say, well, that money's not going for NIL. That's fine. Well, there's another $10 million in this pocket over here that came in that we're going to use that. We're going to find that. We're going to say, hey, we're going to use this for NIL. People want to donate to this, and they want to set up these programs, this and that. And we use that for NIL money. So it's kind of not maybe using that 10 million, but so imagine this, if your rev share is $15 million for football, throw in another 10, you're at $25 million. You can compete, and that now, does that mean that other people aren't throwing in 35? I think that's pretty obvious. Right. They are. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, maybe 40. I think teams are going to have, what's funny is, what do we do when the college salary cap becomes more than the NFL? I mean, we're moving in that direction, right? I mean, we're moving towards this at the top level.
As people think Congress is going to save them, and we've already seen with the SCORE Act, that doesn't address half the problems that are going on right now. And Congress is finally starting to figure that out.
Yeah, and so, but I guess, that's where Illinois is competing. And you're going to compete, you have to spend money. There's more to it than that. Just because you spend money doesn't mean you're going to win. But I can guarantee you're not going to consistently win if you don't spend money.
I totally agree with that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's just, there are a lot of schools out there who spend a lot of money and they don't look very good. Then there are schools who
Florida State.
Yeah, exactly. They don't look very good.
200 million the last 2 years to get 4-6 wins.
That's a lot of win. That's a lot of money per win, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But yeah, so I think that they're competing though. I think and you know how it is. The more you win, the more boosters want to get involved. The more people want to get involved, want to donate. It's just that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, so Illinois football could have a lot of donations because over the years there hasn't been a burning desire to be a part of that, 3-11 team, whatever,
Hey, we were 1-11 last year. This will be awesome. I think I'll donate.
Yeah.
Let's buy some tickets. And look at ticket sales. I mean, ticket sales have been as good as they've ever been, right? I mean, except when you go back to the 80s, the Mike White era, or when they were winning big and the stadium held more people. And I think the other part about it is it's harder to sell tickets today than it ever has been.
Because a lot more things to do.
There's more things to do. Television, I can put on my 65-inch screen right here. And let's be honest, I mean, obviously I'm at a lot of the games, but my 65-inch screen gives me a better view because I can rewind and go back and look a lot of times.
Yes.
But I can't do in person. So there's some sell. Now you don't get the energy, you don't get the atmosphere. Trust me, I get it. But if you're just wanting to watch the game, sometimes you can watch it just as easy in your house. And that's why a lot of people stay home last Saturday because it was nasty in Memorial Stadium.
And it is just it's a crazy world that way. People don't understand. If you want an explanation why the AP poll is crazy, or why there are things that don't make sense when they're voting on teams to be in a playoff, the people who cover college football, you get to the game 3 hours before the game starts and you leave 2 hours after the game is over, and the game is 3.5 hours. You don't have time to watch other teams other than highlight packages on ESPN or Big Ten Network. And
Exactly.
and nobody really wants to talk about that, but the national folks can kind of sit at home and do that, but the people who cover the individual teams don't have that luxury.
No, it's hard. I mean, it's really hard to see all the teams. I know during the college basketball season, I always try and before Illinois plays somebody, I like to make sure I've seen them play. Well, unless it's one of the critters early because you can't find a game, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I've seen, but it's hard. Like it really takes a lot of time. Like that's the great thing about Illinois doesn't have any. We have signing day, but Illinois didn't have a basketball game this week, so I got to. I've got some recorded games that I can go back and watch and break some things down. So it makes it fun.
Yeah, and speaking of people who don't enjoy or have a good sense of humor, Penn State fans don't like it when I suggest that Tim Beckman has a lot of experience around the Penn State campus. They don't think it's funny.
You don't think that's they don't think that's a good hire?
Well,
Beans and weenies, baby. Beans and weenies.
That may be all they get, because I'll tell you, one of the things that we talk about that people think we're always, oh, you're defending the coaches or whatever, is you sit there and you're looking at it and you're thinking to yourself, it's easy to fire somebody when you're mad and feel really good about it. That James Franklin, he only wins 10 or 11 games a year. We're going to get rid of him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who are you going to replace him with? Well, we don't know.
Yeah.
And so when you hear us on the podcast talking about, well, I don't know if I would do that right now, or, people are like, well, you defended Lovey too long, or you defended so and so too long. It wasn't necessarily defending, but Mike Thomas gave us a great example of getting rid of one coach and then bringing somebody in who wasn't as good as the guy you got rid of.
Mike Thomas showed us that. And here's the thing. When Mike Thomas, a lot of people thought that, and I will say this, if there was one person on the Illini beat, here's a little story. Like when they called me to go to lunch with Mike Thomas because I was so critical of that AD hire, right? I didn't like it. People thought I did that just because he was going to fire Weber and Zook, and I didn't want them to fire Weber and Zook or something like that. Well, it was because you didn't want Mike Thomas making your next hire. And so it's not about firing the guy. Firing guys are easy. Like anybody can do that. I mean, if you get $50 million, we can pay the buyout and we can fire anybody we want. Yeah. It's not about the firing. It's about the hiring the right guy. LSU went out and paid a crap ton of money, but they got Lane Kiffin. And I think they're pretty happy with that in the sense that Lane Kiffin wins, right? He's a really good, he can win. We know he can get really good players. Penn State paid a crap ton of money to James Franklin, or well, not as much as they would have had to without Virginia Tech hiring him. But now they don't have a coach. They're probably going to have to hire a coach to, maybe promote from within, and then see where they're at in a year. I mean, and the worst part is Penn State. They fired Franklin. I mean, what, 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago?
Yeah, well, they wanted to have plenty of time to get turned down by all, it's kind of like
every single coach in the United States turned them down. But here's the thing: how dumb is that? Because they lost all their recruits over the last few weeks, and Franklin took them with him. Why not let the season play out and see what happens?
I am
at least a few more weeks.
I gotta be honest with you. I'm not a big fan of in-season firings, particularly at the college level. Maybe in the pros, it works every once in a while.
Yeah.
But I think those are more the exception to the rule than it is the way you want to operate. And I just look at these guys trying to figure out how you are going to hire somebody in. And it does surprise me because they have committed they're going to put more money into things. And they already did so much for James Franklin that just didn't work.
Yeah. We say that, but that dude was in the Final Four last year, right?
Yeah.
So he's 1 year removed from making the Final Four of the college football playoff, and you canned him, what, 5-6 games into the season? I mean, it's kind of insane when you think about it. It really is. I mean, like, and we paid $49 million to do it.
I'm not sold on Lane Kiffin, and I never have been. I think he is, as you know, because you have to listen to me on the radio shows. Stuff. I love his press conferences. He is since Mike Leach has went on, he is the number one interview in college football. But I don't know. He's never even won his conference before. So I'm not real certain that, given the pressure that LSU has, like I said, maybe he'll be able to get such good players it won't matter.
Yeah.
But he's going to have to make this about winning and not about the Lane Kiffin show. At some point, he'll figure that out.
It's always the Lane Kiffin show because he's the most narcissistic human being on the planet. But with that said, he just went 11-1 at Ole. He's been consistently really good at Ole Miss.
Yeah,
I mean, let's be honest, he's been really good. So in the SEC, he's been good. He's recruiting a lot of those guys. You know, we know, like, a local kid, J.C. Anderson, following him to LSU. He's going to have a probably a larger budget, it sounds like. I think LSU matched his pay, but let's be honest. Do you think, when you compare those two programs, if you have to choose, I'm going to go to Ole Miss or I'm going to be at LSU, which one are you picking?
Oh, I'd pick LSU. But in
And that's what he
today's
did.
world,
But my problem is the way he did it. He handled it really poorly. I mean, just really. I think had he just said,
because he wanted to make it all about him.
It is, and he was the talk for 3 weeks, right? I mean, all about, Lane Kiffin. And so, it is. And it was about him.
Do you think he DVR'd like Sports Center and would flash forward through to get to the part about him, and then
there's no question,
go to the next episode of
You don't think
Center.
he rewatched all of his press conferences and laughs at himself? I think he does. I think he likes himself. So do you think, and then I kind of look at it, but here's my only question. Lane tried to sell that he had changed. He'd matured. He's a family man now. He isn't the guy who left Tennessee after 1 year. He isn't the guy who, all that stuff, right? Now that's kind of fallen on deaf ears, right? So my question is this. Knowing that he is the most narcissistic coach in college football, and there's a lot of them that have that tag. Does that hurt his recruiting, or is it just the fact that he's going to have enough money and the pedigree that he's won in the SEC that he's still going to recruit at a high level? Because I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't send my kid to play for him. Because if you're being recruited by them, you could go play for Kirby Smart at Georgia. You could play for Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. Go play for whoever. I mean, go pick a guy, right? I mean, in the SEC, you could play for anybody in that league. You can go play for Sark in Texas. You could play for Venables at Oklahoma. You could play for, or you come up north, play for. You could do that. Maybe I would go there. So, but you come up and play for, Ryan Day at Ohio State. Probably you can go out and play for Lanning at Oregon. I'm a big Dan Lanning guy. I mean, I think he's been good. I mean, there's a lot of options for you if you're being recruited at that level. So I don't know. It just seems to me like I don't know why. And I get there's money, but they can't outbid everybody for everyone. So I think that it's going to be interesting. And I know he's a great, I'm sure he's a great, when he gets in your living room, he's a great salesman, right?
You just got to wonder, can I believe what I'm being told?
Well, how can you believe anything he says? You know what I mean? Like, that'd be really hard to do. And I don't begrudge him leaving. Again,
I never begrudge anybody, because the first question I ask anybody complaining about a coach leaving or a player leaving is, tell me a time that you had a job that paid more money than your current job that you turned down.
Yeah.
There aren't many people. Now, there are people, don't get me wrong, but there aren't many people who can tell you about turning down a job for more money.
Yes. I've done it a few times, but there aren't many people who do it.
Yes, you are correct. And then the other part is the life-changing component. I mean, they're getting to the point where it's play money. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is with the money that he has, probably his grandchildren and maybe even his great-grandchildren can be set for life.
Oh, for sure. And the thing I look at, like, if LSU's giving him, let's say, an extra $25 million in NIL, and Ole Miss only giving him 15 or 20, and they're going to pay him basically the same money. At Ole Miss, you're a god. Like, he's not anymore. Now he's like the most hated man in Mississippi.
See, and I got to be honest with you. This is just my personality because I'm a contrarian. But I would rather build it where nobody else has than go to where somebody else has already done it. That's just my personality.
It's his program. It was his program. At LSU, it'll never be his program.
Exactly.
I mean, maybe it will be someday. I don't know. If he wins 3 national titles or something, but I don't know if that's going to happen. And I look at it like I don't begrudge Kalen DeBoer for going to Alabama, but Alabama's never going to be your program because Bear Bryant and Nick Saban were there.
That piece of information that you have right there that you just shared, which I agree with you, is why if I was Penn State, I would zero in on him. And as soon as Alabama loses a game and the people are questioning whether Kalen's the right guy, I'm right there with $100 million going, we think you are.
Yeah.
Because
maybe that's the way to go.
I do think, because you remember whenever like Saban would lose a second game sometime in a year, and Alabama
that one year,
they would swoon,
1 year,
yeah, they would swoon like, "What the hell's wrong with this guy? Maybe we need a new coach." And
he only has 7 national titles.
The rest of the country would be like, "What are you guys talking about?" So I do.
You realize that they should have beat Michigan the year Michigan won the national title. If the fumble there, they're going in for another. Go up by 2 scores, that game's probably over.
Yeah.
And just a fluke play and
Connor Stallions.
He scouted the fumbles. But I look at it like, they probably, I think they probably win the national title that year too. And I don't know. It's pretty amazing what he did. But I guess there's but there's, I don't know. I'm a big fan of like doing your own thing and making your mark that way. Now, even at every level, there are certain jobs that are going to be better. Like LSU is a better job than Ole Miss, but Lane Kiffin it could have been the guy at Ole Miss, and he's already like
the guy who changed that for a decade or two.
Yeah, exactly. He could 10 more years at Ole Miss. How many games did he win? 90, 100 games. I mean,
yeah,
pretty good setup there.
Yeah, and he, of the light blue teams. You got UCLA and North Carolina on hard teams, so they would be the best with the semi-powder blue.
It's always jerseys. Important to be the best powder blue team out there.
Exactly. I mean, I used to love Bosworth when he would talk about UCLA colors. We need more Brian Bosworth.
We do. More juiced out crazy.
So wrapping up the thing here.
We may have gotten off topic there.
Yeah, we that tends to happen, doesn't it? Bielema's got the best team here. So what does the best recruiting class in a long time? Let's just leave it at that so we don't argue with Illini greats who decide to squish us like bugs when they run into us at the tailgates. I don't need to be between.
We didn't say best team. We said best recruiting class on paper.
I know, but I don't want to have to answer to Regis Ben and Rashard Mendenhall.
I don't want to be tackled by one of those guys.
Yeah, that's all I need is that to happen. So what's he on the cusp here? How many years does he have to get good classes like this for Illinois to maybe have the talent that's equal to his coaching ability?
Well, I think you got to stack them, right? So it's got to be if next year's another class like this where you're in the top 25, I think you'll see the shift and the talent. Because I think that first of all, you have to have
more with less right now. I don't care.
No question. Says. I agree, and he did have a really good quarterback this. I think Luke Altmaier is really good, and that helps a lot. But there's not like I kind of look at what he's done and. You don't have when they had injuries, the drop off was pretty severe.
Yes.
What you want to have is a team that when you have injuries, the drop off is just from here to here, not from here down to here, right?
Yeah.
And
like
as you
state, when you can set your top 2 wide receivers.
Yeah, you can sit them out for like the 2 weeks before the big game because we don't really need them.
Yeah, exactly.
But now So I think that's where you want to be, like, and that allows you to not, and I don't want to say you rush guys back because they may be, guys can be cleared to play
Right.
and not be ready to play. Does that, you know what I mean? And not really need to play because there's a chance they could get hurt again more severely, or, re-aggravate, that kind of thing. So Ohio State was able to say, listen, we got Michigan in the Big Ten championship game. Let's sit these guys for a couple weeks. That's what you want to be able to do. Not you want to sit them, but just when they have the nagging injuries, that's how they get better. That's how then they get closer to 100% down
For
the
the
end of the year.
CFP.
So, yeah, and that's where I want Illinois to be, where they can have that kind of depth. That's why I love this recruiting class. Like, and I wrote that article for Illini Guys where I talked about my favorite 10 guys. And actually, there's 11 because I wrote
You
that
can't count.
before Smith committed, flipped, right?
Okay. Fair enough.
Or I would have had 11. But so let's say we pick 11. It's hard to pick 11 out of these 30 guys.
Right.
I mean, there were 20 some guys I could have picked that I really like, that I think are really have a potential to be quality players. And there's probably, I mean, I'm not saying there's some that aren't. I'm just saying that some guys stick out, some guys you really like a lot. And I could have picked over 20 guys. And, there've been years when it's like, I could pick 5. You know what I mean? And now you've got the depth where you could look at 20 of those guys, say, I see this guy making an impact at some point, in the next 3 years.
Yep.
I think that's where, but you got to stack them.
Yep. And that to me is the part that will be really fun, because it just seems like they're on the verge of doing something that, quite honestly, has never been done here, which is having a consistent winner. Even you go back to the 100 years of Illinois, and they don't stack decades. They don't stack years, let alone decades, like Ohio State does. And it would be really fun to see that Illinois program get elevated because basically of the hire of Brett Bielema and the way he runs the program. And boy, he's got it clicking right now.
Yeah, I agree. And here's the thing: you stack next year, a rebuilding year. You win 8 games next year, people would start going, wait a second. Well, that's 8 more wins. And then you have, and I think, honestly, Illinois looking at 27 as being the next, as a big year, right? I mean, I think that's when you have a really good recruiting class, JUCOs here.
Yep.
I think you look at that. I think they can be good next year. I still think they can be good next year. I think 27 is the year when you say, wait a second, we get a chance to be really good, right? I mean, maybe that's the year where we're back like a 10-win team. And
Right.
so, and then from that point, now, if you stack classes together, you could maybe stay at that level, be a 9 or 10-win team every year.
And then what you've done is you've become what Iowa and Wisconsin have. Iowa's done for the last 40 years, and Wisconsin's done for the last 30 years.
Yeah, and up until they hired Luke Fickell. Really, I mean, Wisconsin was like that. And I'm not saying Luke Fickell's a bad coach, but I think it's taken him time to trying to implement what he wants to do. And they gave him more time, but I think the only reason they gave him more time is because they had 25 million reasons not to fire him. So that they couldn't afford. So
sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, Brad.
Yes, this is true.
As a last final thing, we are going to be having a halftime show for the Tennessee game on Saturday. Obviously, the post-game show. Any pre-Tennessee thoughts? I know you haven't had time necessarily to break down Tennessee, but anything off the top of your head that you're looking at?
Well, and I got to watch him play a couple times. I got to watch him play against Kansas, and then I got to watch a little bit the other night. But the one thing I'll say about Tennessee is I think it depends. There's certain guys that kind of make them go, and they're good, and they've lost 2 in a row. I get they lost to Syracuse. That was it was at Syracuse, not a great loss, but they haven't been as good offensively. They're still always, Rick Barnes teams are always going to be physical. They're going to get after you. Nate Ament is really good, but he hasn't shot the ball maybe as well as I don't know, maybe not as well as the people had hoped. Shooting 31% from 3 thus far. He had a rough game against Syracuse, 1 for 7 or from 2, 1 for 3 from 3, 2 for 10 overall. Had 7 turnovers. So when you're relying on freshmen, this is that team. Jacoby Gillespie is 1 for 10 from 3 against Syracuse.
So that means they're going to be primed for their luckiest game of the year.
It's possible. The one thing I like, though, about this, though, they're going to play big guys, whether it's Felix Ekpara is going to be inside. And, and Cade Phillips is another, 6'9", 220-pound kid. And they play Jalen Carey, 6'8", 267, whatever he is, 270, whatever he is. I think they've got some guys that they're going to, play, and I want to match up a little bit. And the other thing about Tennessee is I don't feel like maybe they've had as much consistent depth this year as they have in the past. You know what I mean? They haven't gotten great bench production at times. They're up and down with that. And, we've seen them have a lot of different guys. And I don't know. I think Ament is going to be a stud.
Right. Going to be.
I'm not sure he's there yet. And so I think that's the thing is how, how far does he get for the end of the year? I think they're a team you probably want to play earlier in the season,
right,
than later. So
but I think Illinois is too.
I totally agree. I think that's one of those things, and I think that the team that wins this game probably has it will be the team that probably has a little bit turn the corner, maybe a little bit. Illinois is a little better on offense. Tennessee's a little better in defense, but they're eerily similar in their metrics. I think that it's going to be the freshmen are going to have to play better. Wagler's going to have to play better. Merkovich is going to have to play better. Petrovic is going to have to play better. And so Yakovich has to actually come to this game. I don't think was he at UConn game?
Yeah, I saw there was a sighting, but it was funny to watch. It
was like a UFO identified. Yeah. So.
And it was so funny to watch because they literally were just give him a little bit of space, and we're going to collapse the second guy on him as soon as he thinks he's going to, get that run to the basket. And it was a good defense, and he had a rough day.
Yeah, I think that's for sure. Another thing to think about there is like these teams have now scouted a lot of that, and so they're looking for those things. Now, the other part about that is this: I'll give you an example. Keaton Wagler, what's the move? And you've seen him play enough, Mike. What's his move? What's he like to do?
He likes to go to the basket,
right? But he loves the spin move. He loves to attack and then spin.
The most dangerous move to play against a defender who actually thinks.
And the help is much easier because you've turned your back on the help. So the minute he starts driving, what are you going to do? I'm going to attack from that weak side and wait for him to spin, force him back into the spin. So teams start scouting him, and they get a little physical with him, and they take away that. So you have to have the killer. You have to have the counter. I got to be able to do something else so they can't always sit on that. But he'll make that adjustment. It's just the question is, he's a freshman, so you got to do that. And those are little things like, we've seen this even with Petrovic. He turned it over a couple of times because he likes to split that double team or split that when they hedge the screen. Okay. Well, if they see you do it, what happens? Like, you can't just keep doing the same thing over and over. It doesn't work that way in college basketball.
Yeah, especially when, like Petrovic, Merkovich to a lesser extent, but Petrovic, Stojakovic don't like getting bumped off their line.
No.
And they are going to get bumped constantly by a Rick Barnes coach team.
Oh, for sure they are. And Stojakovic, the other thing he doesn't like to do is what? He doesn't like to pass. Right? I mean, he's driving to the basket to score. He's not driving to create. He's driving to score. And I think that's where he's going to make that. The next step for him is becoming a creator, not just for himself, because he's a guy who creates.
Yep.
But he's got to learn to create for others. I mean, we've talked about that,
He'll be
Matthew
devastating
Meyer.
when he does.
Oh, because
he will be
once you take away that help, guarding him one-on-one is virtually going to be impossible for 99% of the college basketball players, especially if you get him in the right spots. However, most defenses try and find a way so they don't have to guard you one-on-one, right? I mean, that's the whole idea, because it's really hard to guard guys who are good offensively one-on-one. I always get a kick out of fans. These guys are so good offensively now. People don't understand. Like, fans are like, we run too much ISO. You realize if you actually get an ISO, you're going to score or get fouled a lot. It's very difficult to guard a guy one-on-one. But when you have help defense, it's a lot harder.
Yeah. And I tell you, Hurley for all of his craziness and his antics, is a very, very good basketball coach.
I think it's arguably he could be the best. I think he might be the best X and O guy out there. I don't know who the top guys are. Self's good. I'm not saying Bill Self isn't good, but Hurley might be the best X and O guy in the country. He's really impressive. His offensive sets are fantastic. His teams defend all the time.
And and they defend, though, in situations where you're like, oh, that guy's slow. Guess what? He's compensated for it. And
well, I mean, yeah, he has defensive teams with like Alex Caravan, who's not a freakish athlete in any way. Everybody talks about Illinois doesn't have enough athleticism or they don't have this. Okay, did you see the guys on UConn?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Solo Ball's athletic, but I mean, some of those guys are not the freakiest athletes. Even the shooter, the freshman who had the big game against Kansas the other night, second game back, not a great athlete, good athlete, but he's not like crazy. But those guys are in the right position. They know how to play position defense. They go through and they can really guard. It's like team defense. They do a great job of taking away the thing that you want to do and making you do the thing that you don't want to do. And that's the whole idea.
Yep.
That's
so, folks, we will be back Saturday night. Should be a lot of fun. We're hoping for an Illini victory, but this is going to be a challenge. They're playing a defensive team in front of a crowd that's going to be very unfriendly. This is what these young Illinois players need to deal with.
I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say there will be more Illinois fans in Nashville than there were in New York City.
Okay.
Because it was about 85-15 UConn to Illinois, and I think they'll get up to 25.
Okay, there we have it. The challenge, the gauntlet has been thrown down.
Let's go, Illini Nation. Let's get at least 20%, baby. Come on. Let's go.
Well, we're looking forward to it. Folks, until then, go Illini.